Hello and welcome to the How I Lost the Weight podcast. Today we're sitting down with Ben, who's lost over 150 pounds. Ben is an absolute legend. He has overcome mental health issues. He's overcome some very serious injuries, and now he runs marathons and has lost over 150 pounds. So he's a super inspiring guy all the way through, incredibly positive, and he has a lot of great information that he shared with you in this episode. So definitely make sure to stick around until the very end. So with the intro out of the way, let's get into it and let's hear from Ben. How's it going, Ben?
Yeah, not too bad, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We both have some pretty phenomenal names, so this should be a good conversation. We were talking
Absolutely.
before we got on here. So you've had a very busy few days. Do you mind sharing what you've done over like the last 24 to 48 hours with everyone?
Yeah, sure. So my day started pretty early yesterday. My brother and I signed up for a half marathon. So we did that, got a nice PB. And then this morning, I did my first Pilates class, which was painful. Something new for sure, new experience. And then I hit a leg day in the gym after that.
Let's
So
go.
the lower body's pretty tired right now. So
100%.
glad to be sat down for this for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, definitely you've earned some rest. And yeah, I've done a few Pilates classes before, especially like most typically guys aren't as flexible for the most part. And so that definitely is a difficult thing. I've seen some women that are just amazing at that stuff. And I remember being in the class being like, oh, I could never do that if I did this my entire life. So it's definitely, yeah, it's hard stuff, but it feels good eventually. But for this pod, man, we're going to talk all about you, your fitness, your weight loss. So to start, what's the highest weight you've ever been? And what are you at right now?
So the highest weight I've ever been was about, I think it was 170 kilos, there or
Okay.
thereabouts, with about 380 pounds.
Okay.
Um, I'm currently at about 98 kilos,
Wow.
uh, 217, something like that.
Amazing.
The lowest I got to was 213 a few weeks ago. And
Wow.
then I went into a maintenance phase after a pretty hard cut. But I didn't lose all the weight at once. I kind of did it
Okay.
in two stages, which I'm sure we'll get into as well in this
Yeah.
conversation.
Why don't we start there? So why did you do it in two
Yeah.
stages?
So I guess my story with weight loss is, I guess, a bit different to a lot of them in that I was pretty active when I was at my heaviest. Still, I played American football 3 times a week for my university, and I competed in strongman at a pretty novice level. But that
Okay.
meant that I was in the gym kind of 4 hours a day, 3 to 5 times a week. And then I was
Wow.
training American football kind of on top of that. So even though I was a big guy, I was pretty active. Um, but I was heavy and I was big. And then I got injured in a strongman competition a couple of years ago. And that injury, without going into too much detail, in one fell swoop, I tore my ACL, broke my femur, broke my tibia, and my meniscus kind of evaporated, um, which wasn't ideal. But after that, I kind of had the realization quickly that I wouldn't be able to play American football. I wouldn't be able to compete in strongman for at least the next kind of year and a half. But what I could do is fit in my car again and walk upstairs without getting out of breath. So I went on a pretty drastic cut kind of within the first week of my injury, um, which I would not recommend to pretty much anyone. But for full transparency, I did a series of extended fasts, and I built up my tolerance for fasting. So I'd have days where I didn't eat and I just drank kind of 0 calorie drinks, water with electrolytes. And then I'd have days where I'd eat my maintenance calories. And that essentially stimulates ketosis quite quickly. And I think I dropped nigh on 100 pounds in about 2.5, 3 months. And then,
Wow.
so that was pretty drastic. And then over the next kind of year, I had surgery on my knee. I was rehabbing it. And I tried to keep losing weight, but my motivation wasn't there. I kind of slowly gained some weight back. And then I sat between 120 and 130 kilos for a while, which was 265 to 280 something pounds, I think. I'm very bad with the conversion.
It's all
Um,
good.
I'm sure you can put it somewhere if I'm way off with my numbers. And then in March, end of March, start of April this year, I retore my meniscus in February,
No.
and I realized I kind of had an epiphany, and I was like, I need to sort myself out a little bit. And I'd started running kind of back end of last year. I'd run a 5K and a 10K. And with some motivation from a couple of friends, I'd signed up to run a marathon. And so I found myself in March kind of unable to run, kind of walking ish, but with a torn meniscus that I was then rehabbing. And I kind of had this whole epiphany that I need to sort myself out. And I think it was 5 or 6 months before the marathon, and I knew I needed to get myself into a shape where I could not only run that, but come out the other side of it as well. And so I had a call with Simon Lefonton, who's pretty well known in this space. I sent him a message just on Instagram, didn't expect him to reply, and basically said, I have a bit of a challenge for you. If you're up for it, I've seen you coach people. I've got a challenge for you. If you're up for it, let me know and we can get on a call. And I'd absolutely love to work with you. And we had a call, and I basically told him my whole story and said, I've got a marathon in a few months, and I currently am way too heavy to kind of run with the state of my knees. Do you think you can help? And he went, let's get to work. So since signing on with him, I've lost 55 pounds. And now we're in a bit of a maintenance phase, and I'm now kind of sorting out my relationship with food a little bit. And then we've got some big projects for next year as well.
Amazing, dude. You gave me so many things to go down. So I was writing notes. I'm like, I have so many questions. So the first thing I'm going to start with is American football. So what position did you play in American football?
I was O-line and D-line.
Okay, cool. And where were you playing? Are you playing in Australia, or where were you playing?
I was playing in the UK. I went to university in the UK.
Got it.
And I played for the Warwick Wolves, the University of Warwick team. And then I started as left tackle there, and then gradually kind of worked my way around the whole O-line. And I kind of sat either as center or right guard. And then I played we have a senior league as well in the UK, and I played for a team kind of near where I live, and I played a bit of O-line, a bit of D-line for them.
So cool, man. I grew up playing American football, and I played American football in college too. So that definitely perked me up when I heard that. Super cool, man. And then I can also relate to your injury situation, because I've torn my ACL multiple times. So for the initial injury, it sounds like you injured a lot of things at one time, which is the same that I had for my first one. Can you walk me through the experience of, like, how did the injury occur, and then what did the rehab look like after?
What's going on? It's Ben from Step Pals here on my daily walk. If you want to walk more, download Step Pals. You can try it for free. It's a walking accountability game that works a lot like Tamagotchi. You adopt a virtual pet, you set a daily step goal, and you can only keep your Step Pal alive by hitting your daily steps and taking care of them. And you can try it out for free right now. It's linked down below. Let's get back into the episode.
So I was in a strongman competition at the time. It was a max log and max deadlift competition. And I'd done a couple of competitions before, and my shoulders were pretty strong, and I wanted to build my deadlift. So I signed up to this one. It was at the gym I trained at. And I thought, what better way just to kind of get another competition in the books and really work on what I really enjoy. And I hit my first 3 log lifts pretty okay. And I went up by 2.5 kilos, which I think is 5-ish pounds. For people who, if you don't know what a log lift is, just for viewers, it's essentially a metal or a wooden kind of log, which you hold kind of here, and you have to deadlift it to your knees, then bring it up to your chest, and then you push press it to get it above your head. And as I push pressed the log, it kind of felt like, I thought when I was in the moment, I thought someone had just come along and punched the side of my leg. And I was kind of sat there like, what is going on? And then I dipped my knees, felt this kind of pop, And next thing I know, I'm on the floor and the log is next to me. And I was just kind of in shock, I guess.
Mm. It happens fast.
It happened really fast. But then I had a friend of mine filming at the time, and I realized what happened was my ACL had ruptured, and then my knee had kind of flung up, and then I was falling back and I landed back on the same leg. And at the weight, I was holding a pretty heavy log.
That's a
That
lot. Yeah.
that was a lot for my knee. And then so that happened, and then I couldn't get surgery straight away because I'd broken bones and they had to heal and
Got
that
it.
kind of well. But also, I couldn't find a physio who was kind of happy to do any kind of prehab before the operation because of the injury. And so I spoke to a load of physios, and they all kind of said, "Have the surgery, and then we'll see you afterwards." So I ended up having to wait due to other complications and some admin things. I ended up waiting 2.5, 3 months to get surgery. And I tried to do some basic prehab exercises. I did a lot of Googling into what am I supposed to do. But I'd lost a lot of muscle in my leg.
Oh,
So
it goes fast.
it goes really fast. And that's something I hadn't quite anticipated. So whilst I was very good at moving around on crutches, my leg was kind of a tube afterwards. And yeah, so a lot of the rehab after the surgery was kind of your ACL rehab, but also building back muscle as much as I could and trying to build some strength and that kind of thing. But it was a year of pretty much rehab stuff until I was cleared to start kind of having a bit more free reign. But then it took another year until I was, I'd say, 90% confident on my knee. And there are still days now, a couple of years later, where I'm still a bit funny about doing things, or I'm really, really conscious that I've had a knee injury.
Totally.
Yeah.
I can relate
so
to that completely.
So it was actually during the rehab I realized that because I'm so conscious about my knee, I realized I wouldn't be able to play American football and enjoy it in the same way, or do strongman and enjoy it in the same way, just because I'd be so vigilant. It would limit how I play or how I compete or anything like that.
Totally. Yeah. Football's not a game that you can play while you're thinking too much. It's definitely got to be an instinctual thing. And so I totally get that. That's why I walked away from football too, was just too many injuries where I just thought about it. I'm like, I'll be thinking before every play. And that's not safe for me too, because the other guys aren't thinking. They're just thinking they want to run through me. So that wouldn't go too well. So thank you for sharing all that, man. I know that's how hard that is. So good for you for pushing through that. Because for people who haven't dealt with an injury like that, that is a lot. That's a lot. And when you're not moving, it's a beast. And it's also a mental grind too. Do you mind like sharing how you stay positive through all that? Because that was one of the hardest parts for me, was remaining positive. Because as an athlete like you're used to being able to like work through your problems, and you can't really work through this. It's a lot of time and waiting. So how did you stay positive through all that?
I think, I'll touch on the first thing you said a little bit, because I was doing a lot of different activity at the time, and I was pretty strong for how long I'd been training. So I kind of felt slightly invincible. And I'm sure you had it as well with your team when you were playing football. Like, people get injured, but that doesn't stop anything from happening. Like, they'll still be on the pitch, they'll still be training, they'll still be, and kind of everyone has this sense that they're kind of immortal. And so this was a real reality check for me. I think the ways I stayed positive, I started coaching the O-line for my university team, which meant that I wasn't completely cut off from the sport. I was still very much part of the community, very much part of the team, just in a different capacity. And I think having that really helped me. And staying in the gym really helped me as well. Like, I couldn't deadlift, I couldn't do the things I used to do, but I could bench press. And so I
got it.
I went ham on bench press essentially. And one of my friends from the gym used to come to my house, pick me up, and then we'd go to the gym. And even if I didn't want to go, he'd kind of just send me a message like, no, I'm coming to your house. I'll be 10 minutes. Be at your front door and we'll go to the gym. No matter how badly I just wanted to sit on my sofa and do nothing. And so he held me really accountable to it as well. And a lot of people in the gym did, which also helped me stay positive because it meant that I had, rather than seeing the injury as something that cut me off from everything, it just meant that I had different projects to work on. I was rehabbing my knee. I was trying to build up my bench press. I was trying to like do what I could. And that kept me kind of in a positive mindset, I guess. Yeah.
So important to try to do that because you are losing so much. You're losing part of your identity, but then the social element that you're losing is equally as bad. So I'm glad to hear that you had good friends, and shout out to that friend of yours that made you go to the gym. Sounds like a legend. So that's absolutely amazing. So it's definitely hard, man. It's so hard. I've been through it, like I said, 3 or 4 times. And it's also hard because people don't really get what that's like if they've not been through it. And I hope no one ever goes through it, but it's definitely a mind battle to stay focused. And I'm sure your bench press got a lot stronger in that time. So you got to find the silver linings, right? Of like, how can I make this a win, and just focus on those things. And then everything else will deal with itself when it does, because you can't expedite it, unfortunately. But you also mentioned throughout the multiple periods of weight loss that fasting was a big part of your initial push to lose the weight.
Yeah.
How did you even explore prolonged fasting, and what did you learn through your research?
So there's a pretty well-known strongman coach called Shane Jaman. His YouTube and his Instagram is MST Systems. And when I was competing in strongman, I still am an absolute nerd about all different facets of the sport. I follow all the coaches. I follow all the like analysts and people who make YouTube videos about competitions and everything like that. And he put out a video a few months before my injury about fasting and just about some of the health benefits that you can get from it. And he went really in depth about how to get into fasting. And then if you're looking at doing it for a prolonged period of time, this is what to look out for. And I was in a very unique position, which is why it's not something I'd recommend to pretty much anyone, because I was in a position where the very basics of fat loss, I couldn't really do. Yes, I could eat me, but I couldn't get my steps in. I could go to the gym, but I could only work upper body. I couldn't move around very much. And I was just kind of sat a lot of the time or moving around my house on crutches. But I had a lot of fat to lose at the same time. And I kind of realized that. And so I built it up very slowly. And I kind of started with, I'll eat what I normally have for breakfast and lunch, but I won't have dinner. And then I'll eat my normal maintenance calories the next day. And then I'd do that for a couple of weeks. And then I'd build up to, I'd have a day without fasted day. And then I'd eat my maintenance calories the next day. And just slowly built up my tolerance to it and learnt how my body adapts to being in a fasted state. And I know there are a few kind of big content creators on Instagram who do a lot of fasting as well, which I find really interesting to see, like hear their experiences. But I built it up I tried to build it up sensibly. And because I was living away from home at this point, I was living in uni, it was something I could control quite easily as well. And so because I was just kind of sat there, if I knew I wasn't eating for a day, I wouldn't have as much of the food noise. Whereas if I was trying to eat in in kind of a calorie deficit, because all I was sat at home or at the gym, that food noise would constantly be there. And so I just kind of cut the cord quite quickly and thought, okay, if I can do it like this, I know it's not a long-term solution, but it can get me to a better place quickly. And that's kind of what I needed at that point, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. Well, good for you for even attempting to do that during all that other stuff going on. Because fasting in general, well, I believe in it. I've been doing intermittent fasting for like years, and then I've done prolonged fasts as well. It's not easy to just jump into. So like kudos to you while dealing with a crazy injury and then also trying to do that. Like you're obviously a beast. So good for you. That's amazing. But that's wow, that's actually so badass. But it's not easy to do, but you do feel amazing when you do it. The longest I've ever gone without food is 3 days, and you feel pretty great through the most of it. the biggest things that I noticed while fasting that sucked was it was really hard for me to sleep. Did you experience any sort of significant side effects while fasting?
I Yeah, so I think the longest fast I did was 5 days.
Wow.
Um, and I kind of had plans to see friends on the weekend. And so
Okay.
I can, and my maintenance calories were high at this point because I was
Okay.
heavy. And so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, if I can push it to this, then I can have a good weekend anyway. Um, and I always found the first 36 hours of a fast the hardest. That's when I was kind of, your body uses all the glycogen stores and then it suddenly goes, okay, we need food. And I found pushing through that bit to be the hardest part. And that's kind of going to sleep on the second day is when my sleep got kind of disrupted. But getting past that bit into day 3, day 4 at times, I didn't do it very often for that long, but that's when it got a bit easier
Okay.
and the kind of the food noise really stops and your body's kind of used to that, or at least my body was used to that fasted state and using
Mhm.
fat reserves for fuel. And so, yeah, I mean, there were times I was really hungry. I was in a pretty bad mood. Um, but getting through those first days, then my mood would pick up. I wouldn't feel hungry. I'd kind of feel pretty energized until kind of the back end of those longer fasts, where again, I just feel pretty dead.
Got it.
Um, and I had this mentality of if I can get to not eating at dinner time, then surely I can go to sleep and then wake up the next day. And that's an extra 12 hours of fasting. And I realized on the longer fasts that is not always the case because I'd kind of end up waking up starving hungry at like 3 in the morning, just like
Mhm.
I need food now. Um, and that's a very different kind of food noise to what I have when I'm eating at a deficit now. It was like kind of like caveman-esque, we need to go have food. I think that's the only way I can describe it.
No, I think that's a great way of describing it. Yeah, it's and your other senses also go on high alert too. When you haven't eaten that long, like your smell becomes fantastic. Every bit of food smells so much better than it ever has before. I was talking about that with a guest the other day, and it's yeah, it's not easy, but when you're pushing through it, it's pretty amazing what your body can do. So, like Ben
Yeah,
said, definitely go do your own research and consult a doctor if you need to before you try a prolonged fast. But I think I was shocked by how far your body can really go without food and be totally fine. There are small periods of time where, like you said, you'll get the noise from hunger or you'll get a headache temporarily. But I found that as long as I have my electrolytes in check past like 36 hours plus, then it
yeah,
usually does a decent job of dealing with that.
yeah.
Anything else that you want to add on the fasting piece?
Yeah, I think just the other thing is I've just kind of remembered it, is the other thing I found really interesting was how my cravings changed as I went through a fast.
Okay.
I don't know if you found the same thing, but I found that when I started fasting, all I wanted to eat was like carbs, 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 rice, pasta, potatoes, anything. Um, but on the longer fasts, I found that when I started eating again, and again, I'll just put this to the audience, when you start eating after a long fast, you can't go straight into eating
Hmm.
of what you always would. You've kind of got to build back up to it over a couple of meals, have something light to start with, and then build back up to having a full meal. Um, but what I found was towards the back end of my longer fasts, all I craved was like lettuce and vegetables. And I did some research into it and realized that after these long fasts, because your body's now using fat reserves as fuel, you finding energy from food isn't as big of a problem. So you start craving what you're deficient in, which I found
Hmm.
interesting. And I kind of realized through fasting that I was quite deficient in some of the micronutrients that you get from kind of leafy greens and vegetables that I clearly wasn't eating enough of. And so I just remember finishing like I think it was a 4-day fast or something. And all I wanted to eat was like the biggest salad.
Wow.
And I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and went, what
What's
have you
going
done?
on? Yeah, what's happened here? That's amazing. That's super interesting. I find that fascinating, and the whole thing, all of it is fascinating in terms of the healing benefits, the how your body turns on certain things, turns off certain things. It's all really, really
Yeah,
fascinating.
really.
For liquids, what did you drink while you were fasting? Just straight water? Or did you have coffee, tea?
Black coffee,
Okay.
Diet Coke in the evenings. And I found like a 0-calorie flavored water
Okay.
that kind of kept me alive. Because it was flavor at the end of the day. And that I'm a massive foodie at heart. So having some
Me
kind of flavor
too.
helped me get through those longer fasts. But
Got it.
water, electrolyte, 0-calorie drinks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So then you have this injury and then you get into running, which almost seems
Yeah.
like that would push you away from running, but
Yeah.
how to explain that whole journey towards becoming a runner? Because for me, I'm like, I would have thought he would be like, screw running. So explain that to me.
So I got injured. I rehabbed my knee, and then I had a few months after finishing the rehab, and I got into climbing at that
Okay.
point, and I was still going to the gym, and I got into rock climbing and just trying other things because my relationship with the gym had changed quite a lot. I wasn't able to go there and just like put
Lift
like
heavy
3, 4
stuff.
plates
Yeah.
and warm up
Yeah.
with that on a deadlift or something like that. I was very humbled in the gym, and I think that change in my identity of who I was in the gym took a while to catch up with me kind of consciously. And then I started a master's in Melbourne, Australia
Wow.
last July, and I met a guy there who had a run club, and I was looking to meet new people, and I thought, you know what, I'll go to a run club. I was always the guy who would get out of running at school and stuff. I'd
Yeah.
like hurt my ankle or something would happen, and I'd feign some catastrophic injury that meant I couldn't run, but I could do all the
Yeah.
fun stuff in like PE class and stuff. I'm not a runner. And I remember I went to that run club and I got talking to him and some of the other guys, and I went on a little run and like I was dead afterwards. I think I ran 1 or 2K pretty slowly and my heart rate was through the roof. I felt like garbage. And then this guy kind of mentioned to me that he was doing a 100K walk for charity and asked if I wanted to join in. I went, yeah, 100%. So a couple of months later, we then did this walk and we walked 100 kilometers in, I think it was 21 hours.
Wow.
But when you're walking with someone for that long, they can become very, very persuasive. And he said, so he spent some of that time trying to persuade me to sign up for a 5K. And this guy's a pretty big runner. And he said, I'll help you get through a 5K. I'll coach you. I'll train you up for it. Just sign up. So I signed up and I did it. And doing that race, I think I caught the bug. And then I kind of kept pushing it. I ran a 10K after that. And then I got injured and tore my meniscus kind of in February. But I'd already gone kind of hell to leather and I'd signed up for a marathon. And I put my name in for another one, having never run more than I think 12K at this point. But that's kind of how I got into it. Was a lot of persuasion and becoming really good friends with this guy who's a crazy runner. He's about to try and run the length of Sri Lanka at the end of this year. So shout out to him. So he then started coaching me, and I found I just love challenge, and I realized I really like trying to do things that people essentially say you're crazy for doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I really caught that bug, and running was something that got me outside, and it was a different kind of challenge to go into the gym and try to lift heavy. And it was a different it was something completely new to me, which I think I had been really looking for after the injury because I knew I couldn't go back. So I was looking for something to kind of progress to. And so that's kind of how it started. I've run 3 marathons now. And we'll see what happens in the future, but it's been a nice challenge. And I'm by no means a fast runner. I'm by no means like special in any way. I just kind of kept at it, I guess. And got really into how to program running and started coaching myself, I guess, which I've really enjoyed doing. And I started helping out a couple of Simon's other clients with running as well. A couple of them signed up for 5Ks and that kind of thing. And he messaged me and went, do you think you could like help them get through a 5K? And I went 100%. So that's kind of been growing as well. But it's just one of those things where it was a challenge that people thought I couldn't do. And something in my brain went,
Let's
prove
do
them wrong.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's.
I love that, man. That's amazing. Amazing story. And my questions off of that was much about how you scaled up, because I've run throughout my life, but I'm a lot like you. I would try to avoid it for the most part. And
Yeah,
the longest I would do when I did go on my own runs was like 5K. So hearing the
yeah.
numbers that you're talking about sounds terrifying. So how does someone scale up to that? What's going on? It's Ben here from Step Pals. I just want to thank you for watching the How I Lost the Weight podcast. Every episode, we bring on people who lost the weight to share their tactics, their stories, and their mindsets to help you achieve the very same thing. So if you're looking to hear from people like you who achieved what you're looking to achieve to reach your weight loss goals, make sure to click the subscribe button so that you don't miss a future episode. Super happy to have you. And with that out of the way, let's get back to the episode.
I think the three things I would say is the thing that stops people scaling up is fear of how other people will perceive them. I think that's something that really I felt quite a lot, because I was a big guy when I started. I was like 280 pounds, there or thereabouts, when I started running. And you don't normally see someone who's 280 pounds kind of running up and down the river or running around your hometown. And so I kind of thought that I stuck out like a sore thumb. And that fear kind of kept me a bit kind of boxed in. And the other thing is I didn't have a structure with my training to start with. So I just go and I'd gas out every time I ran. And I realized that if you scale, it's essentially the same mentality as the gym. There are a lot of people who are scared of going into the gym because they're worried that other people are going to look at them and laugh, or I had that exact same thing. And then I had it with running, and then you kind of realize that everyone is far more focused on themselves than they would ever be with anyone else who's out and about on a run. 99% of the time, the only interactions you'll have are those of pure respect that you're out running and bettering yourself. So that was definitely the first thing I realized, is if I stopped worrying about how other people perceived me and focused on, am I enjoying this? Am I pushing myself as I should be? Then you can progress a lot quicker. And structuring your training so you're not gassing yourself out every time you go on a run, but you have kind of a day you go on a slightly longer run, and a day you push like speed and try and get your heart rate up a little bit, and a day where you keep things quite easy. That kind of structure, I mean, that structure of 3 runs a week got me from rehabbing my knee in February to running my first 2 marathons in July and August.
Dang.
And it's literally just build it up as you would progressively overload in the gym. Just build it up slowly in kind of when you're running.
Amazing, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. I've always wanted to try to get into more running, but it's intimidating because I've never run more than 5K, like I said. So it's definitely. But maybe you've motivated me. I may try to look into that a little bit more. So this podcast is obviously called "How I Lost the Weight," and the
Yeah.
most important thing for losing the weight comes down to nutrition. Comes down to
Yeah.
food. What is your relationship with food? I guess, what was it before when you were at your heaviest, when you were maintaining a weight for football, and how has it changed since you've lost weight?
It's been a bit of a ride, I guess. So again, I think I'm slightly unique. Not because I'm special anyway, but I got to my heaviest weight eating chicken and rice and vegetables.
Wow.
I didn't really like. I liked fast food. I'd have a pizza on occasion if I was at a party or something, but I didn't seek out McDonald's or something. I ate 2 kilos of chicken and a massive bowl of rice. That was the food I ate when I
Wow.
was at my heaviest training for strongman. And I just go out to the shop, buy a packet of chicken, put it in a slow cooker, and that was my food. Cook a load of rice. I think my relationship with food changed. It's changed more this weight loss phase than it did before. I guess because I wasn't fasting this phase. But when I started being coached, I started working with Simon. He a few weeks in said, "How do you feel about going really strict and just seeing how it goes?" And I went, "Yeah, absolutely, let's try it." So I essentially ate the same food every day for the last 6 months, and it was egg whites and oats in the morning, some yogurt and some rice cakes, chicken and rice, and then beef and potatoes. And it would be different iterations of those meals every day. What that meant was my relationship with those foods was fantastic. But any other food, like I was terrified of going to restaurants. I was terrified of eating off plan in any way, which was not a sustainable thing. And so something I've really been working on since coming back is trying different foods and enjoying food for food and working the foods I like into my macros now, rather than being stuck to a very strict meal plan. But I think the other way my relationship with food has changed is just my cravings are very different now. I don't like the thing I crave most at the end of the day is like a yogurt bowl with like some protein, like a whey powder, yogurt, berries, that kind of thing. Whereas before I kind of ice cream or corn or something more unhealthy. But I'm slowly realizing that, you can eat what you enjoy and still lose weight. You can live life as you want to and still lose weight. It just depends how far you want to go with your journey and how quickly that will affect your relationship with food more or less.
Got it.
But I'm now kind of learning how to make healthy recipes and try different things and experiment a little bit and go out with friends and eat at restaurants, rather than what happened for the last few months is I'd eat my food and then my friends would all go out and I'd go out with them and I'd have like a Diet Coke or something while they're all having dinner. And that became my norm, but that wasn't sustainable. I think when people go on a weight loss journey, their relationship with food is going to change and it's going to be difficult. But I can't stress enough how worth it is in the end to kind of come out the other side and realize that you can eat how you were before, but you now have so much more knowledge about when to eat those foods or how to balance. If you're having a pizza in the evening, you know how to balance the rest of your day to do that. Whereas before, like you just have less knowledge about it. And so you either go through you have a binge one day and so you restrict everything the next day, like a binge restrict cycle, which is unhealthy. Or you try something like I know I'm having a big dinner, so I'm not going to eat during the day. And that just means you absolutely splurge in the evening, and then kind of the feelings of guilt and shame. When you learn how to balance everything and how to come to terms with you can eat what you enjoy and not have the guilt around it, that changes the game. That changed the game for me so much.
Totally.
So
Yeah, it's
I know
about it.
very
No, that was
long.
great. No, that was awesome. Always feel free. That was fantastic. It's about accumulating tools, right? In terms of figuring out what do I want to achieve and what are the different ways that I can get there where it doesn't drive me insane and I can maintain this over a long period of time. So, no, I think you said that perfectly. So that's awesome. And definitely feel free to rewatch that if you need some additional motivation for how to see food and see all that. So definitely, that was awesome, man. So in terms of walking and steps in general, obviously with us being step pals, that's a big core focus for us. With you running and walking, how many steps are you getting per day? You must be getting a ton.
It depends. I mean, I've been criminally bad today. I'm on 2,500 for the day, and it's 3 p.m. So I've got a 2:45. So I've got a walk to do afterwards. But running definitely helps getting the steps in. When on a day I've run a marathon, you can get up 50,000, 60,000 a day. Purely
That's crazy.
They start the races so early that you run the marathon. That's 42K. That's 44,000 steps. And you're done by lunchtime. And then you kind of walk around, explore the event village afterwards. You just end up accumulating steps. The days that I don't run, I sometimes find myself having to consciously make an effort to get steps done. But again, working it into the routine really helps with that. Having Graham and his life literally depending on me getting my steps in has definitely been better motivation.
100%. Yeah, no, that's definitely the goal, right? You got to keep your virtual pet alive. So that's awesome to hear, man. And 50K steps is crazy, which leads to my next question. Because you've done a lot of athletic endeavors in your life. What would you say has been the hardest athletic achievement that you've achieved? Would it be the marathons or was it something different?
The 100K walk was hard.
Really? Harder than the
That
marathon?
that was hard in a different way because it just kept going, and
Yeah,
I
true.
didn't fuel correctly. So I got to, I think it was 70-ish K in, and I hit a wall, and that wall was a 25K long wall of just trying to get through it.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
because you've said you're going to do this as a walk, you're limited to walking. So that was like 4 hours of just being kind of stuck in this minefield in my head. So that was mentally really tough. I think the first marathon I did physically was tougher, but mentally was okay. That was at the Gold Coast, and the route kind of, you go down a road and then you turn around and go back up the road and then come back down again. So you see everything there is to see on your first 15 to 20K, and then you've just got to see it all again coming back, and that gets a bit mentally draining. But with that, I put so much pressure on myself that kind of the day before I was essentially non-verbal. I was so nervous about the marathon. And then all those like anxious thoughts and everything kind of came to the fore when I was running, which kind of hit me like a truck, kind of 35K into that run, and I hit a wall there. So that was, again, physically really difficult. But the other marathons I've run haven't been as physically hard. I've just kind of, because I changed my mindset around them to, I'm going to do this and enjoy it. And whatever the time is, that's fine. As long as I can say I've enjoyed it, or it felt easier than last time, or something like that. And that's meant the other ones haven't been as difficult. But the first marathon and the 100K walk, I think, are definitely up there as some of the hardest things I've ever done. Yeah.
So, from hearing the 100K walk thing about how long that wall was, how did you establish such a strong sense of discipline? Because for all of these things, it's a recurring pattern where, like, you've got to push through when you don't want to. Like, where did you develop that in yourself and in your life?
It I don't know exactly where it came from, but there are different things that have kind of led up to it. I struggled a lot with my mental health when I was, especially between 15 and 18. That was a rough period for my mental health. And I started kind of doing some mental health talks and trying to reduce stigma in mental health whilst I was in that kind of rough patch. And it started with talking to schools, and then I talked to some companies every so often, that kind of thing as well. And I've done some work in sport. And I think through that, kind of, I had to lead by example and be open about my mental health. And again, when it came to and that translated when it's come to these challenges of, I like being able to show people who have been in my shoes or are currently in my shoes that nothing is impossible if you put your mind to it and if you work towards something. And so if I can do that by showing that even in really tough times, you can get through, kind of, even if you hit a wall on a run or you don't have a good gym session, that doesn't mean scrap the whole thing. It just means, okay, come back next time and learn what happened. And I find, so I think that trying to set an example has definitely been motivation to do that. And I also am a big believer that growth comes as a result of discomfort and learning to be okay in discomfort. And so when I hit that wall in the 100K, we had a support team, and they kept saying, if you want to stop, you can. Like, you've already made it so far. And I kind of thought I could stop, but at the end of the day, that's going to be something I didn't tick the box for. But I know that we're over halfway. We haven't got that long left compared to how far we've come. So I might as well finish it. And at least I can tick that box and then learn more about myself in that process as well. I think that's what kind of keeps me going. It's not so much just strict discipline as it is trying to develop as a person, and learning to be comfortable in the uncomfortable is just a key way to do that for me.
Remarkable, man. That's so awesome. And I'm so glad that you took something you struggled with and turned it into something positive, not just for you, but for everyone else out there. And I think, especially when it comes to weight loss, the topic of this show, a lot of people who struggle with weight loss, they also struggle with mental health, or they put on the weight because they are struggling with mental health problems.
Yeah.
What advice do you have in terms of how people can start to improve their mental health?
The first thing I would say is it's okay. If no matter how you're feeling, it's okay. And that is something people don't say enough. Our generation in particular has a massive tendency to put on a mask and to try and kind of fake it till you make it. Not only like in every facet of life, to the extent that when you ask someone how they're doing, the instant reaction is, "I'm fine, I'm all right." Whereas there's no room for honesty anymore. And what that meant is I wore a mask for years. And I'd kind of be out and about, smile on my face, and inside I was not the happiest looking back now. But because I wore a mask, I refused to accept how I was feeling in and of myself. And I think acceptance is the first step to kind of to then learning how to better your mental health. Because if you don't accept how you're feeling, you don't realize there's something to improve upon. It's the same with weight loss. Until I got injured and I accepted that I was really, really like overweight and pretty unhealthy, for the years before that, I didn't see there was a problem. I just saw that's me. And it's only when I accepted that I could then work towards losing weight. And it's the same, when I accepted that my mental health wasn't the best, I could then talk to people about it and work out what is the best way for me to work towards bettering that. So I think acceptance is the first part. The second thing, kind of key piece of advice, is it's not a linear process. There will be days where you feel on top of the world, and there'll be days where you just want to sit in bed and not do anything. And both of those are completely acceptable. That is okay. That is part of the process. And if you look at those bad days in isolation, it could look like you're not progressing. And it's only when you zoom out and you realize that how often those bad days come about is getting further and further and further apart. That's when you realize how progress is going. And it can be really, really hard when you start trying to work on something and not see the progress. But you kind of don't see the progress until you see the progress, if that makes sense. And it's kind of similar with weight loss. Again, there's kind of a lot of overlap, I've found, at least, with both of these things. But that's, I guess, what I'd say is, firstly, it is okay to feel how you're feeling, even though society says that it's not. And even though it's hard to be open about how you're feeling, it is okay to feel how you're feeling and be open about it. And once you accept how you're feeling and accept that is part of you at this time, you can then work towards tangibly what is going to work for me to better my mental health. Is it be more sociable? Is it journaling? Is it pushing myself out of my comfort zone a little bit? Or is it finding a healthy way to process things? Whatever that is, whatever works for you, that is fine. But acceptance and just learning that is part of the process is definitely the most important thing, I think.
Totally. You said the point that I was going to say next. That's so connected to weight loss in general, right? Like they're so similar. When you approach it like how Ben said, then you find the little things that can help you. And then you also find that a few things, like there's a lot more resources out there than you think, because you're so obsessed with the problem. When you think that it's so bad that you have a problem, that you're obsessing over the problem rather than trying to find solutions, which makes it a lot, or improvements. And then two, it's always scary until it's not, right? And so when you kind of say the scary thing out loud, it becomes a lot less scary, because the fear was in the anticipation, in that little gap of will it, won't it, right? So phenomenal advice there. And if anyone's struggling with mental health, like don't be don't feel shame around that because it's a pretty universal thing that everyone's gone through that at some point in time in their life. And there's probably a lot of people out there that would love to be supportive and help you. But like you said, we all just kind of say we're fine, even when we're totally not.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter there are so many organizations, and I'll send Ben a list of them to kind of link below. There are so many organizations who are based around giving you someone to talk to should you need to talk to someone. And sometimes it can be a lot easier to talk to someone who is disconnected from the rest of your life.
Very good point.
Sometimes it's easier to talk to a parent or a friend. But if you need someone to talk to who's disconnected or someone who's trained, there are so many organizations to talk with people who you can talk to about what's going on, and you will be treated with respect and accepted and listened to.
Amazing, man. Yeah, please share that list with me and I'll put it in the description box of this episode. And yeah, man, this has been absolutely a pleasure, Ben. If people want to get more of you in their life, where can they follow you? Where can they keep up with everything you're working on?
My Instagram is benji.lawson. My videos aren't the best. I'm still kind of getting the hang of it, but I do some vlogs. I do some fitness posting. We've got a big project coming up next year, so make sure to follow to kind of catch that as it starts. Yeah.
Amazing. So that'll be linked down below. Go give him a follow. His stuffs are awesome. I think you're far too modest. Your videos are good. And if that's what they are now, I can only imagine where they'll be a year from now. So definitely keep rocking with it, man. You're super positive, and every time I see one of your videos, I'm happy to see them. And it was awesome talking to you, dude. It's amazing all the stuff you're doing, dude. It's a pleasure.
No, really, really awesome talking to you too. Thank you so much for having me on. And don't forget to download Step Pals and get that motivation going.
I appreciate you so much, Ben. You have a great day.
You too. Take care.